Nelson Mandela once said, education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. And I believe in the power of education to help us survive and to live a better life. But the question is, how? How would education help us survive in such a competitive world? Hello everyone, my name is Novri, a third-year medical student at the Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Airlangga, batch 2020. I am 20 years old. I come from a beautiful small town in South Sulawesi, Kabupaten Bantaeng. I am someone who is passionate about public health issues and public speaking. This year, I joined an exchange program at the Research Institute Microbial Disease, Osaka University, Japan. And last year, I was entrusted as the Executive Board of Community Outreach TEDxUniversitasAirlangga, where I led a community service project called Desa Binaan. And I'm also a book writer of Cerita Siswa Rantau. Talking about the book I wrote, it reminds me of the day I decided to continue my education at the boarding schools when I was about 13 years old. I was very young and ambitious at that time with thousands of dreams. The first day I arrived at the dorm, I met a lot of new people in a new environment with all the daily routines that made me a little bit surprised. And all I could think about was, I want to go home. I hate this place. It's like living in hell and I miss my parents. But this book tells how I finally survived, how I eventually made it through and learned many valuable lessons that has changed my life forever. I learned a lot of new things that I might not get anywhere else. After 3 months, I began to adapt and get used to it. We were taught to be disciplined, responsible, communicative, confident, and also to be a good leader. We were trained to be someone who is not only intellectually intelligent, but also spiritually and emotionally intelligent. I still remember one of my school's unique routines in every weekend. In every Saturday, there are some activities that could train and also improve the student's soft skill. Let's say public speaking training, leadership training, entrepreneur classes, knitting, cooking, financial management classes, table manner, and etc. And you know what is my first reaction to this routine? I was complaining to my teacher. It is Saturday and it's supposed to be holidays, right? I think, why should we learn all these skills if we will never gonna use them later? And why don't other schools apply them to? Then I asked my teacher, I said, Sir, I want to be a doctor. Do I have to learn all these skills? I think I don't have to learn entrepreneur, financial management, or something like that, because I just want to be a doctor. But my teacher responded, just smile and answer, you will find out someday. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you, please raise your hand if you ever feel and believe that our goal starting from elementary school to college is to get a proper degree and a well-paid job. If you agree with this statement, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. You can lower your hand. I see that most of us agree with this statement, but the question is that the only goals? Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered why you are willing to study for about 16 years minimum? From elementary school, junior high school, just to get a proper degree and a well-paid job. But actually, this shows how important education is to surviving and to live a better life. Ladies and gentlemen, it would be an understatement to say that today we live in a rigidly competitive world where many people compete with each other to be the best and to be the first. We often see many parents who are busy on educating their children to be the best in academics and accepted into top universities. However, many of us forget that the scope of education is so vast and wide. People of modern society have narrowed the meaning of education. It is not only about studying in school, getting the best scores on exam, but education is so much bigger than we think. Education is the process of acquiring knowledge, skills, morals, values, and habits to help us reach our goals and to be a better person. I still remember a memory from 7 years ago when I was in boarding school. My teacher asked me, he said, "Roy, what do you think an educated person would look like?" And I answered, "Those who are good in academics, the ones who get the best scores in exams with many achievements and becoming professors, doctors, presidents maybe." And my teacher replied, "Do you know why there are so many cases of corruption, terrorism, and other crimes in our country? Why there are many bachelor's graduate but end up becoming unemployment? One of the reasons for all that is because the education system in our country is still very rigid. Everything was standardized so that those with the higher levels of education will be more successful. Children are required to be the best in schools even though education is not always about scores and being the best." And my teacher answer made me think, then why are there many educated people with the higher levels of education but end up becoming criminals? But again and again, my teacher just smiled and answered, "You will find out someday." 7 years have passed since then, and I finally found the answer. This experience has changed the way I think alongside my whole perspective on education. It made me realize that being well educated is not always about receiving awards, certificates, or having fancy degrees from reputable institutions, but also how to be a good and a social person in life. Education is not just about academics, but it also covers every other aspect in our lives. And there is the difference between the knowledge we learn in school or college and the knowledge we learn properly in a society. Ladies and gentlemen, for me, there are two major types of education: formal and non-formal education. Formal education is basically a practice of knowledge where someone would learn basic academics or some other skills in a specific environment such as schools or college. And informal education, in the other hand, is the type of education where people are not studying in specific schools or college and doesn't require any specific learning methods or techniques or any particular syllabus. And everyone can get this informal education from anywhere and at any time. For an example, by reading some books from any libraries and the educational website on the internet, or by doing some soft skill training or activities. The next point I would like to highlight is the lack of non-formal education that should be taught in educational institutions. There are still so many schools and colleges that do not teach nor train soft skills such as communication, leadership, critical thinking to the students. The only thing everyone is teaching is how to get a good grades on exam and forcing the students the methods of memorizing the textbook, but rarely teach the students how to excel their skills in real life. Ladies and gentlemen, data from Badan Pusat Statistik shows that Indonesia's unemployment rate was recorded at 5.83% of the total working age population of 208 million people, and ironically, almost 14% of them are diploma and bachelor graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, soft skills are very important in life, as it required to live properly in today's society. Let us take an example. Many educational institutions that only provide their theoretical knowledge that will help the students to get a good grades on exam, which will increase his or her employment opportunities, but fail to teach them the practical knowledge that will be useful for them in the real life. And the result of this, as we often hear, is that many bachelor graduates end up becoming unemployment because they do not have a practical knowledge about the concept that they learned during their study in institutions. Or we often see many people could work in international or multinational company, but doesn't mean every one of them have the proper skills to communicate with the other people. Ladies and gentlemen, getting a higher education doesn't guarantee that we will be successful. Hard skills are not enough, and soft skills are also needed to survive. Communication, leadership, critical thinking, time management, problem solving, collaboration, and teamwork skills are all essentials for developing ourselves. And these skills can be used effectively in a world that is constantly changing, in a competitive world and facing the dynamics of education. And we should start from now to implement and develop our skills. Learning these skills is now very easy to do from anywhere and at any time. From any book, any internet, or through some activities such as training, workshop, conference, or the activities that we are currently carrying out right now, TEDxUniversitasAirlangga. Ladies and gentlemen, it is hoped that these efforts will produce younger generations who are excellent not only in academics, but also in other fields. The younger generation who are intellectually intelligent as well as spiritually and emotionally intelligent. We are also able to improve the education system in our country, which is more flexible in this changing and modern era, and deal with the dynamics of education. And finally, these efforts can also be solutions in overcoming the education gap in our country. Informal education, such as soft skill training, doesn't require much money and can be implemented anywhere, anytime, so that students in the remote areas can also carry out the same activities and get the same facilities as other students. And all of these requires the collaboration from all parties, not only from the government, the Ministry of Education, but also from the parents, the teachers, the students, and all of us sitting here to improve the quality of education in our country. To survive in this competitive world, education is something that needs to be handled carefully. Many people succeed with higher levels of education, but end up wasting their education, even become unemployed, and even becoming criminals because they are not equipped with morals, values, and characters, and also the soft skills. Remember, we are incomplete without education, both formal and non-formal education. With these efforts also, we could also play a role in realizing the fourth point of Sustainable Development Goals, quality education. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine if at the time I had not decided to continue my education at a boarding school and receive the soft skill training every weekend, I probably wouldn't have known how important informal education was for developing myself. I may just focus on pursuing my dreams, getting a degree, getting a job, without knowing what the true definition of success is. 7 years ago, the public speaking training that I had to attend every Saturday, which I used to complain about, actually led me to become one of the speakers at TEDxUniversitasAirlangga. And finally, I have found the answer to the questions I asked my teacher before. And this made me believe that everything happens for a reason. Thank you very much.